Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Lost One podcast. Joining me today, we have Shoshima 1016.
Yo.
And I want to welcome back SamuraiNoodlez.
Yo, what's up?
Who has been gone for, I think you missed like 3 weeks of recordings in total. So
I'm tired.
yeah. He's been very busy, everybody, with like real life stuff and then ditching us for like family game night and stuff. Like, how dare?
What?
Like, how dare you have like a life outside of recording content for my channel?
Hey, you leave my family alone.
I see what you did there. I see what you did there. So, Samurai kind of buried the lead there, but we'll just get right into it. We're going to talk family, specifically Fast and Furious.
Because there's nothing stronger than Fast and Furious. Oh, wait, no, family. Family, that's the line.
Family.
Yes.
And we're not going to do, just so you guys are clear, we're not going to do a deep dive on every movie. That would be, I think, something more akin to like dedicating an entire episode to like each movie because of how many films are now in the Fast and Furious franchise. We were talking off air before we went live, and Shoshima brought up that there's going to be 11 movies with the release of Fast 10, which at the time of this recording I think comes out within the next like couple days, if not weeks.
Yeah, is it?
I want to say it's this week.
Yeah.
So by the time you guys hear this, it'll have been out for like a month. So that's just FYI.
This is me getting lost really, really fast.
Yeah.
Well, you're on theme.
Yeah, you're on the right podcast for that. So we're not going to do like a deep dive into the movies. We more want to talk about kind of a general overview of like the movie's structure, like how the franchise got started, what it has meant for online and culture, as well as, just maybe talking a bit about like a couple of the actors and what the potential future of the franchise looks like, according to Vin Diesel. So without further ado, guys, let's just jump in. So the Fast and the Furious franchise, as we mentioned, is about to release, at the time of this recording, its 10th movie in the main franchise, and it has also released one spin-off, Hobbs and Shaw, for a grand total of 11 films.
I know. I like how Tokyo Drift isn't a spin-off anymore, by the way.
Yeah, it's not a spin-off. It's main canon, and we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, it's pretty crazy when you think about it too, because the film originally started off about underground street racing. Like the entire plot of the first movie was having Brian go undercover to try and get into Dom's like gang. That was the whole plot of the first movie.
Which is actually, just a pretty, like, basic, down-to-earth, like, grounded plot.
Yeah, and now, here we are, in the year of our Lord, 2023, or, whoever your Lord may be, and
Our Lord is Barbie.
we are launching cars into space. With people in it.
Are they
Yeah.
Elon Musk?
Apparently, yeah. They ain't launching no Teslas, I'll tell you, not in these movies.
Uh-huh.
But
Yes, simple, grounded street racing. In space!
space!
Lost the grounded when you got into space.
I think we lost the grounded well before they launched a car into space, but
Of course.
that's another discussion we'll have today. But it just really is super crazy to think that this franchise, which again started off with Vin Diesel and Paul Walker, has now become one of the top grossing franchises in movie history. It's up there with like the MCU, basically all of Disney, and a whole bunch of other like big names that you're like, wow, are you kidding me? Like this franchise that started off with, again, underground street racing is now one of like the largest and most successful movie franchises of all time, which is really insane to think about. So before I kind of do my deep dive like I normally do, I actually want to change things up a little bit. Shoshima, when you think of Fast and Furious, what do you think about? Like, what's your first reaction? What's your thoughts?
Either we're gonna go to Little Tokyo, or the Death Cube going down the road, like... just because that was just fucking ridiculous, them dragging that safe.
What was that, Fast 5?
I want to say it was Fast 5.
Yeah, I think that was in
remember.
Fast 5, yeah.
But yeah, that's usually just those stupid-ass moments. There's all the whole family memes and everything, but
Yeah.
yeah, as far as like core Fast and the Furious, that's usually what comes to my mind.
Yeah, I agree. Samurai, what about you? When you think of the Fast and the Furious franchise, what's the first thing that jumps to mind for you?
I wonder if you know how we do in Tokyo.
No, that's what I was getting at. Exactly what I was getting at.
Yeah, no, that song was really catchy.
It was very iconic too. It was in, I think it was in the trailer, right, for Tokyo Drift. Yeah, great. I'll say this: great trailer. If you guys have not seen the trailer for Tokyo Drift, I highly recommend you go check it out. It's really good.
And for one reason or not, the moment I believe it's also in the same movie where they drag the save. It's just Dom looking at the rock, was like Brazil.
Yeah. That is the same movie. Yeah, Fast Five.
Is the same movie? Okay,
yeah,
cool.
It's
Yeah,
much
no,
earlier in the movie, but yes.
Yeah, no, just him saying Brazil.
Yeah.
And then everyone pointing their guns.
Yeah, because the Rock and his team are coming in and they're trying to arrest Dom and Brian. And man, it's just like, yeah, and just Dom's like, I don't feel like I'm under arrest or something like that. And, you know, The Rock, of course, and Vin Diesel, and we'll talk about this more, but more later in the pod, but, they both give off these like alpha male energies in the movie, right? That's their character and how they are in real life as well. They're both people who view themselves as the alpha, and they're just like trying to like one up one another. And Dom basically tells Hobbs, "You're not in the States. You're in Brazil," and then everyone points their guns at him.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, you can't use your usual tactics, Hobbs.
Yeah.
Here. But yeah, lots of iconic moments. I mean, I think for me, some moments that really step out is Hobbs and Shaw, where it's just like literally The Rock and I can't think of the
Jason
actor.
Statham.
Statham, thank you, are just like literally trying to like outdo one another, and like Statham's character is always doing things a little bit smarter.
Yeah.
But to me, there's a scene in Hobbs and Shaw where like they're both in like separate rooms and they need to get access. And The Rock's character had like one dude he had to beat up. And he was a big dude, but it was one dude. Whereas Shaw had to beat up like 30 dudes. So there's a scene where like, the Rock, Hobbs puts the dude's like thing to activate the door. And Decker then has to go in and like go through the entire crowd of people, and it's like fake, doesn't work. Like that to me is like one of the most iconic scenes in the movie, at least in my opinion. And the other one I think is after the unfortunate death of Paul Walker is it's been a long road, without you, my friend.
Yeah.
See you again. So those are kind of my two personal moments in the franchise that stand out to me. But it is just really crazy to think about where this franchise started, because the first three films, The Fast and the Furious, which we had to actually look up right before we went live because we couldn't remember if it was Fast and Furious was the first one or if it's The Fast and the Furious.
Hey man, that's the franchise's fault. They don't follow any naming convention.
They really don't.
They're like Microsoft.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. You should take a drink for that one. Good job. Like, you deserve a round of applause for that one. I'm a programmer who always takes shot at Microsoft, so to hear him do it, just so proud. So proud. But, so the first three movies are not really very well connected. Not until we get to Fast and Furious, which is the fourth movie, not the first one.
Huh.
As we mentioned, the first movie is Vin Diesel and Paul Walker. Brian is trying to infiltrate as an undercover cop this illegal street racing crew that's been hijacking vehicles. It turns out it is Dominic Toretto's crew. Despite, Brian's like conflicting loyalties, he does eventually let Dom go at the end of the movie.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of convicting loyalties when you start banging his sister.
That too. Yeah. I wasn't going to put it quite that bluntly, but you're not wrong. The second movie features primarily Paul Walker, but it also introduces another character who's...
is it Lucius in this? No.
I thought it was Tyrese.
Tyrese.
Yeah.
No, but what does they call him something, or he has a nickname for himself, right?
Yeah. Well, he's the clown. but he thinks he's the alpha. That's like a recurring joke.
Okay.
He's a fast talker. Like that's his role.
Yeah, my bad. I thought he had a nickname for himself that I was trying to remember, but I might be misremembering.
Yeah, so they end up having, it stars the two of them, if I remember this movie correctly. It's been a long time since I've seen this movie, and it has like literally no connection to the first movie aside of like, Brian has been like, basically he's trying to like earn like a pardon for letting Dom go in the first movie. And it's funny because I think that Too Fast, Too Furious is the only movie in the franchise where Vin Diesel does not appear at all. It's just the Paul Walker show for the most part. Then you have in the third movie, which was Tokyo Drift, there's literally nobody from the first two movies in it, except for at the very end.
Like the end credit scene, yeah.
But, it's focused more on Han and another character who makes a cameo appearance, I think, in Fast 8, and I think also Fast 9. But, when you just look at like these three movies together, it's kind of like, man, they don't really line up at all. But Tokyo Drift does drop the line at the end, where Vin Diesel's Dominic Toretto shows up and refers to Han, who passes away in this movie, like is the mentor teaching the protagonist how to drift. Yeah, spoilers, I don't know how long. Like,
we're pushing 20 years. I mean, it's over 10 years.
Yeah, I think we're pushing 20 at this point.
Yeah.
But, he shows up and refers to Han as family. And while family had kind of been a bit of a theme in the first two movies, like this is really where, at least in my opinion, the term that we would become a big joke about, right, really originated, was in Tokyo Drift. And it's in like, I think it's like at the very end of the movie or an end credits scene. I can't remember which, but...
I felt like it was an end credit scene, but
yeah. Yeah, it was just kind of thrown out there, and it was like, oh, okay. And moving into the fourth film, Fast and Furious...
Wait, hold on, because 3 was where it was supposed to end.
Yeah.
3 was where it was supposed to end, but it garnered enough interest because number 2, kind of bad.
Yeah, didn't really do as well as the first one, or even Tokyo Drift, for that matter.
3 rekindled that relation, just like, cars are cool again.
Yeah.
4.
Yeah, and 4... is still very much about cars. But this is really where the action, spy, thriller themes start to develop. And I think you pointed out off air that this is what some fans refer to as the family trilogy starts, with 4, 5, and 6. And then you kind of get this like weird like action-based trilogy, or even like, I don't know what you would call a 4 movie off the top of my head, but I imagine it's like quadology or something like that.
The quadrilogy.
But
I don't know.
The quadriplegic. Oh wait, no.
No, not that.
Not that.
Okay, that reward you earned earlier, it's gone now.
Oh, dang it.
Yeah. But and then that's where it like really starts to go off the rails, is like 7, 8, 9.
Yeah.
And then obviously we have the conclusion trilogy, which is, the 3 movies. Yes, 3 movies for Fast 10. And we'll talk about that later.
Now, hold on. I refresh my memory on number 4 real quick.
Yeah.
This is the one where they do like the smuggler's run type thing?
I believe so. This is where they get the quote-unquote crew together that we come to know over 4, 5, and 6, and 7 as well, where Dom and Brian start recruiting people for this job. And I believe it does involve stealing vehicles. I don't remember the whole plot, but I do distinctly remember the scene where they're going over like everybody they need, and it's like, we need a chameleon, and that's Han from Tokyo Drift. Someone who could...
and this is this is the one where they go into like the secret tunnels that go across borders and whatnot.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool.
I think so. Yeah, because I think it involves the Mexican cartel, because this is Gail Godot's character.
Yeah.
And she was tied to the cartels. So I think this is correct.
In theaters, but because they don't follow a naming convention, I don't remember any of it. Not that I don't remember the plot, I just don't remember which one is which.
Yeah. It's kind of like what we talked about with the Resident Evil films a couple episodes ago.
Yeah.
Very similar.
After the third one, I don't know which one is which anymore.
Yeah. So Fast and the Furious is kind of like the coming together of the quote unquote family. In a lot of the ways, the fourth film kind of ties together the first three movies as one, and like, oh, this is now a franchise. Like, I hesitate to use the term shared universe, but it's a shared universe. The Fast universe. And so Han is introduced, and like what his connection to Dominic Toretto is, because again, like he just appears in like the end credit scene or the last scene of the movie in Tokyo Drift, and it's like Han was family, and you've never seen the two interact like at all. So it's like, okay, what's their connection? So 4 kind of starts building that relationship, and then you have again, they're going through and they're like, we need a chameleon, so that's Han, someone who can blend in anywhere and anytime. We need a fast talker who can talk their way out of anything, and it's the guy from the second movie whose name is escaping me at the moment, but I think it's Tyrese.
Tyrese's character.
Yeah, Tyrese's character. Then we need a tech expert, and that's Ludacris. I'm not talking about I'm not the description, like the rapper.
No, the rapper. Yes,
the rapper Ludacris is the tech expert.
Who was introduced in number 2 as well.
Yeah, he was also in number 2.
Maybe that's what I was getting confused earlier.
Yeah, it's funny too, because I actually remember Ludacris, like the first movie I remember seeing him as an actor in was Crash. And I had to watch that for college. So that's another story.
I was just listening to a podcast about that.
Yeah, I don't want to dive into that movie in particular. It's very controversial for some people. I personally enjoyed it, but some people have an issue with like diversity and tackling the issues that Crash did. Florida. Anyway.
Oh, wow.
So they introduced them. They need like, okay, now we need someone who can like, is not afraid to get down and dirty and who can back up any other member of the team, and that's like Gal Gadot's character. So it's like, okay, we have like all of these like characters are coming together, and then of course we have Dom. I think his sister's name's Mia, and Brian, of course, make up like the core, and they're going to be like the drivers. And so yeah, they perform the heist. They basically swindle the cartel and piss off a whole bunch of people, and there you go. Now the family that we all know from the memes has been formed.
Yep.
Fast 5 kind of really takes it to more of an action-based, again, we continue that development of like the spy thriller, action movie that 4 started, and we introduced The Rock, where they're now being hunted after they have this big ol' heist, and they're now being hunted by The Rock as they try to basically steal a whole bunch of money, I think, from in Brazil. And I believe this is the movie with that iconic, they're just literally dragging the safe through the city.
Yeah.
As they're being chased by, The Rock's Lucas Hobbs.
Yeah, they don't like put it on the truck. No, they have 2 cars chained to the motherfucking safe and just start driving through town.
That's not a plan. That's a goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, the Rock's character is because Fast 5 is where the franchise, I think, really took off to the stratosphere, where we know
that was in 7, wasn't it, where they took it to the moon?
Well, no, that was 9 where they went to the moon.
Or 9.
They didn't leave the stratosphere. This is where they started to reach the stratosphere.
I'm just playing.
So, yeah, I mean, obviously The Rock, big box office name, huge addition to the franchise.
I feel like they just put him in there just so they were like, see, they're not the same person.
Oh, actually, it wasn't Gal Gadot, I think, who had the firepower. That was Letty. That was Michelle Rodriguez.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah, but Gal Gadot's in there somewhere. I don't remember what her role is, but she has a tie to the cartels.
Uh-huh.
So, so I can't believe I forgot about Michelle Rodriguez. She's such an iconic part, and she also plays like such a big role in 6 because like I think the whole plot of 6 is she's lost her memory and is working for like this terrorist organization.
Yeah, it was really weird.
And that's how Diesel and Rock end up working on the same side in this movie. Like that's how they justify it.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, it's like that's how they kind of like earn that respect that we see in 7.
Oh, okay. Because I know I think it was 6.
Yeah.
I'll just never forget the scene where The Rock, I think, was in the hospital. Like he broke his arm or something.
That was 7.
Yeah,
he's in the cast and he just breaks the cast. Yeah, that was 7.
He just breaks the cast and then he picks up a fucking minigun and just starts shooting him. Like, I don't think that's how bones work.
No, it's not. But, they got to show off how badass he is. So
that may not be how bones work, but muscles on the other hand.
That's the difference, yeah. So Fast 7 is where things kind of get interesting, because obviously at this point, Han is dead in Tokyo Drift. So the end of 6, they kind of do this reveal that he was murdered by somebody. Like, he didn't just, like, get blown up by, like the Yakuza in Japan like we thought. It was a hit, and there's, I think, an end scene in 6 where they tie in the end of Tokyo Drift, where someone is walking to the exploding remains of Han's vehicle, and they put, I think it's Mia Toretto's cross on the body. And that's how they kind of like tie all this together. So they finally tie in, after 6 movies, 3 movies after Tokyo Drift, how Dom is connected to Han and why he was in Japan.
Huh.
So, for those keeping track at home, the chronological order is The Fast and the Furious, Too Fast, Too Furious, Fast and the Furious, Fast 5, Fast 6, Tokyo Drift.
This is still better than Devil May Cry's timeline.
This is true, but that's a very low bar. Fast 7 introduces the character of Deckard Shaw, who's the antagonist, and he's the brother of the terrorist that they dealt with in Fast 6.
Yes.
That's the connection there.
Oh, Fast 6 ends with the fight scene with them with, like, 2 wrenches.
Yeah.
Like, a wrench in each hand, just, like, beating the shit out of each other.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Yeah. So Shaw comes in, ends up actually going toe-to-toe with Luke Hobbs first and blows up the building. That's what puts him in the hospital.
That's what it was.
And, basically he's coming after Dom and his team because they put his brother in a coma at the end of 6. And, yeah, Shaw basically becomes the big villain. Blows up a couple people, kills a couple people, including Han. I think Gal Gadot's character died in 6 as well, because that was a relationship with, she was in a relationship with Han.
Oh, okay.
And, yeah, then, so it's like, okay, so he's the big bad. This is where the memes really start to take off, where it's like the power of family, and the action really takes like another level. Of course, also hanging over Fast 7 was the in real life death of Paul Walker, who, ironically or appropriately, depending on how you want to look at it, died in a high-speed car accident. And, what many would say is the height of his career. And interestingly enough, they made the decision not to kill off his character and instead kind of retire him, because at this point he had been married to Mia, they had a child together, and kind of a whole life. And so they chose, instead of killing him off, which we talked about kind of off air as we were getting ready for this recording, they could have easily just killed him off, because there is a scene where I think he like gets blown up, or it looks like he gets blown up.
Yeah.
But they instead chose to keep him alive, and that has since been the case, I think, through all the movies so far. Again, we are recording this before Fast 10. We do not know the fate of Brian as of this recording.
Well, I want to say this. I feel like they kind of hinted at that a little bit as the movies went on. I mean, the countless times that Brian tries to go up against Dom as, like, he wants a rematch for the race. And then when he finally does beat Dom, everyone's just like, he didn't see it. Hey, he really thinks he won. Yeah. Because Dom was like, hey, you're going to need money for this baby that's about to be on the way. So,
and as we all know,
and
as we all know, Dom values his family more than anything else. So much so that he takes on Thanos.
Yep.
True facts.
Ain't nothing. You got the Infinity Stones. Ain't nothing stronger than family.
Yep, pretty much. And we'll talk a lot about those memes too. But
yeah, I liked the way they did it. As far as just instead of just killing him off, like, I thought it was a good way to, keep his memory or and live on, rather than just like killing his character off and being done with it.
I agree 100%. And they weirdly enough did it right compared to some other franchises that may not have necessarily handled it as well, or have been a bit more ham-fisted with attempts like this.
Exactly.
This was really heartfelt. It was very clear that Paul Walker was much beloved by the entire cast. And I think they did do a good job honoring his character. Samurai, what's your 2 cents on that?
I was going to say, on a more cynical side of it, like, on a more dark side, it would suck if he basically died twice.
Yeah.
Like that would be kind of fucked up.
Yeah. I agree.
So it
Yeah.
was a nice little send off.
You say that, and it's making me think of a movie that came out recently where they died twice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Without spoiling,
Yeah, we can't talk about that,
Yeah.
but
other movies.
we'll discuss that. We'll discuss that
But
another time, I'm sure.
No, especially with everything like ramping up and being so like over the top, and them to just do such a good send off.
Yeah.
I think was
Yeah,
actually
it's-
very classy of them for in this franchise.
These missions are getting more and more dangerous.
yeah,
Yeah, like, shit is not even real anymore. Just be with your family.
yeah.
What was the scene? Okay, so I don't know which movie this was because honestly, I think I stopped at 5.
Uh-huh.
What's the scene with like them on the ice? And they're like re-guiding a missile or something coming up from the ice.
Oh, I think that was 8 because that was Cypher.
Oh,
I'm
like
pretty
that one
sure.
was-
because
I remember seeing the scene. I just
Yeah.
haven't seen the movie, and I was just like, "What is this?"
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was 8. It was either 8 or 9, but I'm pretty sure it was 8.
Yeah, the more we talk about these movies, the more I realize I did watch most of them. I think I just missed like 8 and 9.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, I can tell you personally that I didn't watch 8 or 9 until well after they were out of theaters because I was just so like disillusioned with the direction that the franchise had taken.
Oh yeah, because I think I watched this one. Is it 7 where they're in Dubai
I think so.
and they're in the top of this building and they drive the car off the building and like crash it into a different building.
Yes, that was 7.
Yeah, and that's still with Paul Walker in it, if I recall correctly.
It's just
it's
so
like-
it's stuff like that where it was like, yeah, 7 was the one where I was like, okay, this isn't really about street racing or cars anymore, which is why I became a fan of the franchise.
Yeah,
They're superhero movies.
Yeah, they're now superhero movies.
Yeah.
And, that's cool, but that's not what I wanted to watch this movie for.
you're like, this isn't what I signed up for back in the day.
Yeah, so, and of course, it took me a little bit of like, hey, okay, I did eventually watch both 8 and 9.
Okay.
Right, like I did. But I didn't go see them in theaters because I just wasn't interested. I'm like, they're going to pull some ridiculous shit, and it's not even remotely grounded anymore. They're not even pretending to be.
Yeah, it's literally not grounded with 9.
And I think that's what bothers me is like if it had been a superhero movie from the start, I probably would have been a bit better with it. But like that's one of my criticisms of the franchise is it's just like it does just keep finding ways to like top itself and how crazy and ridiculous they can be. I believe there's a scene in I think it's in 8 where with the missile and they block the explosion with their cars. Like, the missile goes off, it lands, and they protect Vin Diesel by putting their cars around him. And it's just like, and not only does, like, nobody die from the explosion of this giant military-grade missile, but I'm like, that is not even remotely how, like, an explosion would work. Even a superhero movie isn't that ridiculous.
So you're telling me they like Spartan defense him, but with the cars instead of
Yes,
shields?
yes, I'm not kidding. It got to the point where it was just like, oh my god. And again, I didn't see this movie in theaters, but like I heard about it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I have no interest in seeing this movie because I'm like, it's just Vin Diesel is still a human being in this movie. And there is a level of immersion that you need to take, and I find that different people obviously have different layers of immersion, and obviously there's a lot of people who love these movies, and I'm not critiquing them for that, but I'm sitting here like I came into this franchise watching the street racing, watching the cars, the drifting, and up until like 6, there was still like pretty high profile moments in like cars and stuff like that were believable.
Yeah.
But then it just gets to the point where it's like, again, you just keep finding ways to top yourself over and over again. And while, like, yes, all fictional action movies, you have to suspend your disbelief to a second. You have to ignore medical. Like, I accept that. But it's like, man, you're dropping a missile and you're using cars to block the explosion and keep one dude who's not in a vehicle alive. Like,
Did I mention they're really cool cars?
they are really cool cars. I will give you that.
It kind of reminds me of just, like how the Resident Evil franchise kept wrapping up like more action-based.
Yeah.
And then once it got like too far, people are like, why did this happen? It's like, you kept buying it. Like, people kept seeing these movies. they kept giving them money, so they said, "Do more."
Yeah, kept buying the video games.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, same thing, and that's again the same thing with the Fast and Furious franchise. Is like I don't blame Vin Diesel or any of the people on the movies for continuing to do this stuff.
Yeah,
they've obviously found some
laughing their way to the bank.
They've obviously found something that works.
Yeah,
it's something super cool, but it's just like, man, I had to really like kind of cool off and like, okay, I'll check this out just because I've already seen like all these other movies in the franchise.
Yeah. And then the other half through the memes.
And then, the other half was through the memes. And 8, in my opinion, has one of the worst storylines, which is saying something.
What was it? Fate of the 8, right?
Fate and the Furious, I think is what it was called.
Oh my god, it's even worse!
Yeah.
The names of the... Oh my god. What convention...
There isn't.
Hold on, I need to pull up these names, because...
We just broke Samurai, guys.
Yeah.
Well, because I don't even know the order of these movies anymore.
Yeah, so I can tell you what the order is. Are you talking release, or I assume you're talking chronologically, right?
Let's see. I mean, you got The Fast and the Furious.
Yeah, so it's Fast and the Furious,
Easy.
Too Fast, Too Furious,
Fast, Too Furious, yeah.
Fast and Furious, Fast 5, Fast 6, Fast 7, Fate and the Furious, or I'm sorry, it's actually Fast 6, Tokyo Drift, Fast 7, Fate and the Furious, Fast 9, Fast 10.
Whoa.
Hobbs and Shaw takes place...
No. Number 9 is not called Fast 9.
I don't care that it's not called Fast 9. It's Fast 9.
It's stupid. It's called F9, and I was like, why?
It's F9, yeah. But no, I call it Fast 9. I don't care.
That's what
It's
No,
shit.
the F5 was John Cena's finisher. We talked about that. Or no, Brock
Lesnar's. John Cena's finisher was the FU. We just did a John Cena podcast 2 weeks ago.
I know, and I forgot all about it. That was 2 weeks ago, man. You expect me to remember that shit?
I do.
Oh.
I also expect you to do your research. I'm disappointed in both cases every time.
Huh. Hey, I feel like I did a lot more research on this episode than I thought when you first proposed it. I watched like 2 movies, homie, but let's go. But no, I watched all but 2 actually.
I'm only 5 movies behind. I guess 6 if you count Hobbs and Shaw.
Yeah, Hobbs and Shaw definitely counts.
I do like how Hobbs and Shaw is the quote-unquote like grounded movie, like for the spin-off, and it has a fucking like cybernetic like.
It's not grounded in the slightest. And I went into that movie, and that was the difference I think between like Fast 8 and F9 and Hobbs and Shaw for me, was I went into Fast 8 and F9 or Fast 9. And I was like, okay, I'm kind of hoping they'll dial this back a little bit after the ridiculous of 7. And I was, when I heard that was not the case, I was not interested in seeing them in theaters. Hobbs and Shaw, though, at that point, I'm like, I've learned my freaking lesson. I know this is going to go off the rails. I went into it with that mindset, and I ended up enjoying it a lot more than I thought I would.
It went off the rails in a different direction.
Absolutely,
yeah.
But it was off the rails. Like I mentioned at the beginning, like the iconic scene, it was like they did a good job of like really crazy like action scenes. And comedy of, Jason Statham literally picking up a whole bunch of unconscious guards and, like, trying to scan all of their badges.
Yeah.
No, all while, like, in the meantime, over on the other side, Hobbs, the Rock, is, like, literally just working out and, like, looking at his watch. It's good comedy shit.
Yeah, no, I like the way they did it, but yeah. And then I did love Idris Elba in that movie.
Oh, he's always great. I'm still salty that he's not Bond.
I know.
He really is Black Superman.
He is. He again, and we kind of made this reference with Jonathan Majors earlier, but like, man, if Idris Elba turns out to be just like this awful human being, I'm just going to retire from saying I really like actors, because before it was Will Smith, and then it was Jonathan Majors, and now I'm like, okay, both of them turned out to be, Will Smith ended up, slapping Chris Rock very publicly, and Jonathan Majors is currently under investigation for abusing women. So it's like, man, I'm just not going to compliment actors and how like great they are anymore. If this one goes badly.
I know, right?
But yeah, so going back to the Fast franchise, 8, the whole plot of 8 is Cypher has like intel or something on Dom's family, and so Dom turns against his family.
Oh,
like, that's the whole plot.
Yeah, Dom's the bad guy in that movie because they had the intel.
And of course he ends up turning on Cypher. They end up winning. She gets imprisoned, and that becomes like a big plot in 9.
Because in 8, was it at the end of 8 they reveal that Dom had a kid?
Yeah, I think so.
I think I did watch 8.
Yeah.
Huh. I've watched a lot of these movies.
You have. You just don't remember any of them, apparently. Again,
That's
Shoshima...
because the naming sucks.
Yeah.
Again, Shoshima, master of doing homework for these podcasts.
Uh-huh. I don't do the homework, but I already did the homework, right?
He just forgot he did the homework.
Yeah.
And then forgets to refresh his memory on said homework. And then goes into the test and is like, hey, how do I remember half this shit?
Hey, in my defense, I was told on the way here, like I was driving.
Not disagree.
Yeah, just like the other day on the stream. I told you, I was drunk. You can't tell me stuff when I'm drunk. Drunk me won't remember. Anyway.
So,
That's
Fast 9.
problem.
Yeah.
Fast 9 introduces Dom and Mia's long-lost brother Jacob, who's never been mentioned in any of the previous 8 movies.
Uh-huh.
Or even alluded to. Played by John Cena.
Nah, 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 nah.
And then also working with Cypher. And another partner whose name I can't remember because I barely remember anything about this movie. But long story short, Jacob ends up redeeming himself in the eyes of Dom, turning on Cypher. Actually, I think Cypher and his partner end up betraying him, so he ends up working with the family and becomes welcomed in, and now he'll be a big part of Fast 10.
I just love how, like, family is such a huge role the 9 movies later. By the way, did you know I had a brother?
Pretty much. And his name is John Cena! Actually, that explains why we didn't know about it. No one could see him.
Yeah, we just couldn't see him.
Yeah.
That was the problem.
This
wait,
series is
shouldn't he
basically just Expendables with cars.
Yeah, I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
Well, that's especially what it's turned into, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Because, like, you think of, like, all the names that have been attached to this franchise. I mean, like, it's a who's who. Brie Larson is going to be in the next one.
Is
for
that the
example.
first one she's in? Okay.
Yeah, she's confirmed. They're also bringing in Jason Momoa as the villain.
And then, isn't Charlize Theron in the new one?
I think so, yeah.
I don't remember if she was in other ones.
And, again, you had The Rock, John Cena, Vin Diesel, obviously, Ludacris, Paul Walker. I mean, the list goes, Gal Gadot. The list goes on.
I'm sorry. I know this isn't a wrestling podcast, but this just takes me back to a line that was said. John Cena talking to The Rock about how he never left the WWE for some big movie. And now here he is in some big movie with The Rock nonetheless.
I was about to say, he's actually not with The Rock. The Rock left the franchise at this point. He's actually replacing The Rock, which makes it more hilarious.
Yeah, okay, so
Yeah.
it's even worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually went over that in the John Cena podcast.
We did.
Yeah,
Samurai.
every time I hear that John Cena is in a movie, I always think about that one line.
Yeah, well, you'll be happy to know that John Cena has publicly apologized to The Rock, and they have made peace over that. So, Cena now understands why The Rock did what he did, especially as Cena's gotten older. But, again, this is not a wrestling podcast. We don't really want to talk too much about that, but it is appropriate. And it's appropriate that you remember that because Cena has said that that's like one of the things he regrets the most, like in his attacks on The Rock.
Yeah, because he attacked him over it and then he replaces him in this huge franchise.
Then he goes and does the same thing.
Yeah.
You yabba dabba bitch.
So we kind of buried the lead a little bit here, but as we mentioned, The Rock did end up leaving the franchise. There was a very public blow up between The Rock and Vin Diesel in, I want to say it was after Fast 7. And The Rock posted on Instagram where he didn't call out Diesel by name, but it was very heavily implied. And it, in many ways, split the public view of the cast. So, like, even though family was, like, a big thing, and, like, The Rock and Vin Diesel, they kind of tried to downplay it at first, and it turned out that, no, it was just a big ego trip between the two, allegedly. Again, we weren't there.
Yeah.
But, there's a reason why The Rock didn't appear. And I guess there was also some, hard feelings between some of the cast members and The Rock, like, taking, like, Deckard Shaw and going off with this Hobbs and Shaw spinoff, which apparently delayed, I think, Fast 9.
Oh, okay.
So there was a lot of, like, bad blood between the two sides. The Rock even went so far. I think Vin Diesel publicly asked The Rock to return for the finale in Fast 10. And The Rock publicly responded saying he was not going to. And kind of like John Cena calling out The Rock for leaving for the movies, The Rock is now appearing in Fast 10. So I don't know if it's Fast 10 Part 1, but he will be back in one of the 3 parts, at least.
I feel like not this, like 10-1, but I could be totally wrong.
I think you're right. But, again, he might pull a freaking Henry Cavill at the end of Black Adam and... Hey, look, Superman's suddenly back. Oh, by the way, we're not using him anymore.
I was just literally about to say, hopefully they just don't do that with The Rock in this franchise.
Yeah, but, we talked a bit about this, I think, on stream a couple days ago. But the idea that The Rock is coming back because he needs money is absolutely ridiculous, which is the current narrative behind The Rock coming back to the Fast franchise after his public feud with Diesel.
Yeah, that's Black Adam bombed too much. He needs more money.
Yeah, it's like, Black Adam wasn't a financial success, which is true, but Rock already got paid for that shit.
I was about to say, he still got paid.
Yeah, so, it's unfortunate, but...
I think his schedule just freed up now that they're nuking the DCEU.
I think it's that, and it's a great opportunity. The Rock knows money where he sees it. He's been very successful in just about everything he's done, and... he's also someone, like, he was willing to work with John Cena in wrestling to kind of throw back to Samurai after Cena was publicly calling his ass out for years.
Yeah.
The Rock has always been someone who can put personal feelings aside to do business.
Yeah.
And, I think that at the end of the day, they realized, hey, this is good for everybody involved. Mm-hmm. So that's where we are, at least with the summary. So... We've kind of gone off on a lot of sidebars, a lot of tangents, but I think that's what makes this podcast so great, at least in my opinion. But I do kind of want to, after doing this review of like all of the films and where things are, what do you guys think about the Fast franchise? Like, is there a particular movie that jumps out to you as your favorite? What do you like about it? What do you not? I'm curious. I want to hear your thoughts, guys. So... Shoshima, we'll start with you, since you've actually seen most of the movies. We'll give Samurai some time to kind of collect his thoughts, since it's been a while since he's seen one, not because he's a slow thinker.
For me, I feel like, oddly enough, like, at least now looking back, I really enjoyed Tokyo Drift. I remember watching it at the time, and it being like, wow, that was different. Like, it didn't have any of the same characters, even though it's, Fast and Furious.
Yeah.
And stuff, until, obviously, like we said, Dom at the end.
Yeah.
Randomly. But, either that or, probably just the original, honestly. Like, it just gets crazy. Yeah, I just liked the cool car, like, races. I feel like the racing movies, I have a fond nostalgia, like, tournament arcs.
Yeah.
Or having... like tournaments in anime or whatever.
Anime or manga, yeah, like Dragon Ball Z,
like
and
Dragon Ball.
Hakusho.
Or I watched they had the Tekken anime on Netflix.
Yeah,
and it just kind of reinvigorated. Like, just tournament arcs are cool, and like just like movies about racing and like competition of that like caliber is really cool as well. And just kind of that. I don't know if it's nostalgia per se, but just it invokes kind of the same feelings.
Yeah, definitely. How about you, Samurai? Is there a particular movie that really jumps out to you, like what you like about it?
From my limited scope of like 1 to maybe 5, 6. I don't remember. Again, naming convention. Tokyo Drift.
Yeah.
Tokyo Drift introduced me to the whole JDM, so the Japanese domestic market for cars.
Yeah.
And it was such a big thing that they even brought in the Drift King to make a little cameo appearance in the training scene where he's trying to go around on the docks and whatnot. I think they're in Yokohama.
Yeah.
He's drifting around on the docks, and when he's like getting better and better, you have these 2 guys that are just sitting there like fishing. And one of them is Keiichi Tsuchiya, who was known for, drifting. Like, it all kind of started with him and his AE86.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was a really cool moment to see that. The car's awesome. I mean, nowadays, the kind of little cringe, like, oh, you did a little too much. Like, what was Bow Wow's Scion XB?
Oh yeah,
In
yeah, yeah.
that was just a little overdone. But
Yeah,
yeah, Tokyo Drift would be more my speed.
man, I hate to do this, but I have to agree with both of you. Tokyo Drift is probably, in my opinion, the best movie in the Fast franchise. The entire cast is great. The concept is just so fascinating because, like, again, we were already dealing with like illegal street racing in the first, two films.
Yeah.
But for me, I've always had a fascination with Japan and Japanese culture, mostly feudal era and before, Warring States era and before. But this was like, as a young kid when this came out, a teenager, this movie opened my eyes to like modern Japan.
Yeah.
And it just confirmed my love and my fascination of the country and the culture. And it had the right amount of drama plus the cool cars. And I'm not a car guy. I've never been a car guy, but the idea of drifting is just visually super cool.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where, for me, it, to this day, really stands out. I actually watched Tokyo Drift like 2 weeks ago, I think. And it's still a really good movie.
Oh, okay.
So I enjoyed it anyway, but I also am not probably the best person on movie critics, but I really liked it a lot. And for me, it's just one of those things where it's a simple plot, it's largely self-contained, it has really cool cars, really good racing sequences, and it involves drifting. In frickin' Tokyo, what else do you not want? Like, come on. So, yeah, for me, that's definitely the highlight of the franchise. I guess I'll also start with the low point of the franchise, in my opinion, is Fate and the Furious, the 8th movie. In my opinion, it's the worst movie, and it doesn't even come close. And I rank that, yes, below Too Fast, Too Furious, which I know is not necessarily the one most people look at with, like, rose-tinted glasses, but to me, it's just the entire idea is you spend 3 movies building up family, and Cypher is a really cool villain, which I really like, is like introducing like this high-tech, villain who can outsmart Dom's entire team and, be prepared and all this. And to prove a point, Cypher is literally going to be in Fast 10 and was in Fast 9 as well.
Okay.
It's a good villain, excellent villain. But that's about the only positive thing I have to say about this movie, is having Dom kind of turn against his family. Everybody knew watching that movie that by the end he was going to find a way out and reunite with his family.
Yeah.
And then the missile scene, it's just... I hate the missile scene even more than the idea of launching the car into space, which they did in Fast 9. Like, I just... It's a cool scene. It's awesome. But my God, there's nothing more than that takes me out of that movie. But I guess if there's one positive I can say about that missile scene is that it does set me up for the expectation of not being so taken out when they launch the car into space in Fast 9. So at least there's that.
Yeah, it makes the car going into space believable.
Well, it doesn't ruin the immersion, because at this point you're like, immersion's already gone, so I might as well just sit back and enjoy the ride. That was my opinion on it anyway. How about you, Shoshima? What was your... Like, what's your low point in your opinion? What was your least favorite movie? And it doesn't necessarily have to be because it's bad, just because you don't like it.
Let's see, my least favorite...
Do we need to come back to you?
I don't know, because they all just, like... are the same quality, I guess? I don't want to say they're all bad, per se, but, like, as far as the movies in general...
It's like watching the Resident Evil movies. They're all just about at the same level.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they're just... None of them was good. Actually, I just listened to... Anyway, that's a whole Resident Evil side tangent.
Yeah.
But... Yeah, I really can't, like, pick, per se. I mean, I guess, like, I remember watching 6, and, like, it's, like, building up, and then it's, like... I just won't forget, like, the end fight scene is Dom versus... Not the
other Shaw.
Yeah, the other Shaw. And like he's just in a clean ass white shirt, and they're like getting down and dirty, and it's still just pristine. And like, but he had his wrenches were like 3 foot like long.
Yeah.
That he's like using. Like he apparently in the backseat of his car just has 3 foot long fucking wrenches.
Yeah, I mean he modifies cars for a living. Of course he has these giant wrenches. What are
Yeah,
you talking
he
about,
just
Shoshima? Come on.
Posted up in the back seat.
Yeah.
And just like that whole thing was just so weird, and like I felt like the whole like end finale culminated very weirdly. Like,
Especially
so
since they put him in a coma and he doesn't kill him after beating him,
Yeah.
bludgeoning him to death with these 3 foot wrenches.
Yeah, like just straight up domes this foo, and then okay, he's not dead, I guess. Like whatever.
That thick skull.
I know. Well, I mean, if missiles don't kill Dom because they Spartan shield him with cars, so
Yeah. All right, so Samurai, how about you? What's the low point for you? I imagine your answer is probably Too Fast, Too Furious.
It's gonna be Too Fast, Too Furious. I mean, kind of going off of like why number 3 is the best. I mean, this was coming off of Too Fast, Too Furious, which was like the worst of the first 3.
Yeah.
So I mean, like how number 3 is gonna be our last one. We did this horrible one, and to be honest, with all these movies, it's like junk food, really.
Yeah,
when you think about it.
That's fair.
None of it's good for you.
Yeah,
None of
exactly.
it's good for you. But I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah.
I just need to catch up on like all the other ones because holy shit, have I missed a lot?
I'll say this, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but pun absolutely intended. They're fun rides.
Yeah.
These movies, like, and that's the thing I had to like kind of get off my like high horse on for 8 and 9 is like, even though I really did critique 8 because it's so freaking predictable and it's like the laziest storytelling in the movie, which is saying in the franchise, which is saying something. It's still fun. Like it's still fun, and that's I think what makes, at least to me, that's what defines the Fast franchise. Is it started off with street racing. And it gradually got more and more action-oriented because that's what sold. I mean, Fast 5 was the most successful at the time. And as I mentioned, that's what kind of launched it into another stratosphere. And they actually broke the stratosphere quite literally in 9. But
and I mean,
even
if you don't like these movies, like they're fun. I could see just about anyone, even people who don't like the movies, I could see them making a riff tracks about it or something. You know,
100%, because there's so much to make fun of in these movies. But at the end of the day, movies are about entertainment, and I think that's something the Fast franchise does really, really well.
Yeah.
As a whole, and I also got to give a lot of credit to Vin Diesel because he has been like the big push behind all of this. And, again, regardless of how you feel about him personally or about, what side you took on his feud with The Rock, the dude has been behind one of the most successful franchises in all of Hollywood. And they made, Fast 10 is about to come out. They had a spin-off that was pretty successful. And it's so popular that they actually want, and it's been confirmed, that they're going to do Fast 10 in 3 parts.
Yeah.
And they keep attracting these big names to the franchise because they are fun movies.
Yeah.
And they don't have to make sense. That's the best part about a movie, about a fictional universe, is you can have a normal dude survive a missile strike because they Spartan shield with cars.
Yep.
see, watch at this point now they can like tie this into the Triple X franchise.
Oh, I'm
That's been the memes actually, like Fast 10, like XXX meets
Oh my
Xander
God.
Cage.
Yeah, I'm waiting. I'm honestly waiting for them to tie it into Chronicle of Riddick somehow. Like that's what I'm waiting for at this point. But again, like as ridiculous as these movies get, like I have levied plenty of criticism at the films. Like I have to acknowledge these are fun movies, and at the end of the day, I think that's what matters. They're fun movies and they sell.
Yeah. I'm just surprised they haven't done more spin-offs, honestly, at this point.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, and I didn't really want to talk about this too much, but there was supposed to be a sequel for Hobbs and Shaw.
Oh, okay.
But apparently it got caught up, like, I think between COVID and, like, a bunch of other stuff. It just, too many obstacles, so it's in development hell. And I don't know if it's still greenlit. The Rock obviously wants to do it. Jason Statham has said he wants to do it. and I'm sure Vin Diesel wouldn't mind, being, producing it or whatever, because especially with the franchise, quote unquote, coming to an end. Which, again, we have 3 movies to go still.
My joke with Haseo is I saw Motley Crue on their farewell tour, and he saw them after me.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. So, it's to kind of go back to wrestling. There's an old adage in wrestling, never say never. My favorite wrestler, Mick Foley, retired like 12 times.
Uh-huh.
Terry Funk literally had, I don't know how many retirement matches, like probably 20. You never know. And when a franchise is printing money, you find new ways to build on it, whether they're going to do a soft reboot or a hardcore reboot after, I imagine the Fast and Furious franchise will continue to live on in some form after it's done.
Yeah.
There's just too much money on the table.
That's going to be their kids.
Yeah, might be their kids. It might be a completely different universe where they start off doing action movie shit. I don't know.
No, it'll be their kids. It'll be grounded again, and then it'll escalate again another 10 years.
I know, right? But yeah, so we've been going for a little under an hour now, and I don't want to keep Samurai here for too long. He is taking a break and has had a lot going on. Also, I know I joke with Shoshima, but I do want Shoshima to get back to his kids too, because here on the Lost One podcast, we highly value family.
I like this is the only episode you ever said that.
Yep, exactly. That was the joke. Thank you for explaining the joke.
You're welcome.
So with that being said, I guess we'll do final thoughts. So Samurai, we'll start with you. What's your kind of final thoughts on the Fast and Furious franchise?
Dude, I literally have a dancing kitty in my head just going, I wonder if you know how we do in Tokyo. I'm gone. I'm dead. Next. Pass.
All right. So, you heard it here, folks. We killed Samurai. Fast and Furious, the Lost One podcast, killed Samurai. It only took 32 episodes, but we did it. Well done, everybody. Shoshima, how about you? Final thoughts?
I was feeling kind of burnt out on the franchise, but now sitting here, talking about it, I'm like, am I going to go watch Fast 10 now?
Probably.
Honestly, I went and I watched Hobbs and Shaw because I'm like, oh, it's different. And, we had the movie pass, so it was free, quote unquote. You know, didn't pay extra. And now I'm like, I think I'm going to go end up seeing Fast 10. God damn it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Uh-huh.
What's the matter? You're going to forget later anyway.
This is true.
Well, it's going to be hard to find time to watch Fast 10, just saying.
You'll find time.
You'll find time.
Yeah, for me, I guess I just want to, again, say that even though I've been pretty critical, especially about some of the later movies, the Fast franchise, I think, has proven that despite its flaws, it has found success.
It's many, many, many flaws.
I don't want to say many flaws, but I will say that, despite some, predictable storylines and writing, some
over the top,
crazy, unrealistic, immersion-breaking action scenes, the franchise is a success. And the important part is, like we hit on earlier, is that it never really lost what makes it fun. Despite the drama with The Rock, despite the constantly rotating cast, the odd naming titles, and the conventions, where plots don't necessarily always line up until much, much later.
Speaking of odd naming conventions, can I just say I do love Too Fast, Too Furious?
I think that's a great name.
As far as names, I'm like, they just did the number 2, but they just went all in.
Yeah, I think unironically it's the best named movie in the series.
Yeah,
that one's the easiest one to follow too.
Yeah.
So, but
it's
for me,
2.
it's just something that I feel they hit on something and they never really lost sight of it, which is something that many franchises can't say.
Mm-hmm.
I would even argue with the MCU, Phase 4 has been a very, very different beast than Phases 1, most of 2. We've talked about that a bit, about how 2 kind of had these weird experimental things too in it. So, but even a juggernaut like the MCU stumbles every now and then, and the Fast franchise really hasn't, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah, I feel like compared to the MCU, they haven't had the same highs per se.
Yeah.
But they've been steady and consistent.
Yeah, exactly. It's again, like, they're a more successful version of Resident Evil, where all the Resident Evil movies kind of have the same feel and flow and same level of success. The Fast franchise has kind of that same thing, but it's gradually been going up.
That's why, like, when we said earlier, like, what's my least favorite, I'm like, they're all, like, you know, build on and, like, kind of the same in my mind, honestly. Like, as far as, it's hard to just pick, like, a movie. I'm like, yeah, not that one.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, go
They're
rewatch
quite
Fate and the Furious and then
same.
come back to me.
All right.
Sorry. What was that, Samurai?
I was just saying their quality is generally the same.
Yeah, they maintain their quality. If anything, it gets better. Like, the action scenes get more impressive and the special effects get more impressive. They don't have those, like, you know, the big thing right now in the MCU, just to compare it again, is, like, Phase 4 has had a big, like, CGI problem in the MCU. A lot of people have complained about that. Fast really hasn't had that much of an issue. And if there's one thing I will give them credit, they still introduce some pretty nice-looking cars in every movie.
Yeah.
So, you know, they never really lost sight of what made them them. And yes, while the family thing has become a meme, like, at least they were consistent with it, and it's been a consistent theme in every Fast movie.
Yeah.
So again, my hat's off to the entire cast and crew, to Vin Diesel, again, for having a vision and executing it and not really giving a shit whether it's unrealistic or not. And, you know, I think you put it earlier, just laughing all the way to the bank. So, you know, we wouldn't be talking about it, in my opinion, if it wasn't significant.
Yeah.
And something we haven't talked about, I know we did final thoughts, but what are your opinions on all the memes? Because there's been a ton of memes that have come out of the Fast and franchise series. It's been good for the internet meme economy.
Yes, it has.
No, I remember I had a coworker who he had, like, the build, and he had sunglasses on the entire time. And I remember telling him, it was just like, I mean, just you being, like, so bulky, and I can't see what your eyes and whatnot. Also, a little bit of, like, you know, little his skin shade. I remember telling him, dude, you are one Dodge Challenger away from telling me you have family. Like, fuck, I am intimidated by this dude.
Yeah, it's pretty great. You know, we talked about the family memes. I name dropped the Thanos one, which was my personal favorite comic book fan. Dominic Toretto just showing up with, like, a shotgun taking on Thanos because of family. You know, tornadoes, weather. I mean, the list goes on.
I'm pretty sure there's a Goku meme in there somewhere about family.
Yeah, there is, 100%. So, yeah. What about you, Sho? What do you think about the internet memes that...
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just part of the movie. I don't know if they played into it, like, on purpose or not. You know, like, making it so over the top and, like, so it is meme worthy. But, like, I think that's definitely part of, like, culture and how they can keep relevant, though, honestly.
100%.
You know, it almost does remind me a little bit of, you know, like, for Dragon Ball with the Team 4-Star, like, you know, that was before memes were even a thing.
Yeah.
But...
Well, memes existed, but not to the level they do.
It wasn't the same, you know. We had memes that was all whole internet videos.
Yeah. True.
And just how that kept it relevant, and I feel like that helps, like, keep it relevant and, like, introduces it to, like, the younger audience.
Absolutely. And I think that that's a big part of why Fast and Furious has been successful, is because unlike a lot of franchises that would get insulted by their internet memes, they may not necessarily leaned into it, but they didn't try to fight it either. And, yeah, I give them a lot of credit for that. But with that being said, it is time to wrap up the episode. I want to thank both Shoshima and Samurai, as always, for being here. Samurai in particular, because I know how busy you've been. So thank you for making the time.
Yep. I haven't done jack shit yet. No.
And I want to just kind of make an announcement of what our future plans are. I actually have a couple in mind. So for viewers, normally you don't find out until the day we release the episode. But I kind of want to give you a little roadmap what we got. So we're going to be wrapping up Phase 2 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Lost in the MCU here. Coming up next, we have Age of Ultron, which we'll be talking about pretty soon. We have, and then we'll be wrapping up with Ant-Man, which will finish up Phase 2 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Also on deck, I hope to have a very special guest making an appearance in the near future.
Please don't tell me it's Haseo again.
Some of you already know who it is, but I will announce it once we get everything finalized. And finally, a couple other ideas I'm hoping to pitch. You brought it up. We're going to be talking about Team 4-Star and their impact on Dragon Ball Z. So, with that being said...
That was not planned, by the way,
No,
guys.
they had no idea. I hadn't even told them that yet. So, I'm like, well, cat's out of the bag. Might as well announce it to everybody. But, again, my name is Shenzo the Lost. He is SamuraiNoodlez. He is Shoshima 1016.
Yo.
Thank you all very much for watching, and we will see you all next time here on the Lost One Podcast. Bye-bye!
Bye!
See you later. Bye.